T minus 1 minute. T minus 50 seconds. T minus 40 seconds. T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hi, this is Hall of Famer Eric Dickerson, and you listen to the Harris Highlights Show. Enjoy it.
Na 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 na.
Coming to you live from beautiful downtown Monrovia in beautiful California. This is the Harris Highlights Show remote edition from all across the country, as we've begun doing as of late. I am your host for the evening, Blake Harris. Joining us this week is our college football expert, Josh Schaefer. He's got to down it. And he almost downed it.
It is so cold.
He almost downed it. He almost downed it. Our college football analyst, Lyle Goldstein, who has an awful background. The sun is shining right through. No shocker there. Our executive producer, Brady Klein, and I'm your host for the evening, Blake Harris. Gentlemen, it's been a week since we've seen each other. We're officially doing this on Tuesdays now, but how has the past week for everyone been?
It has been very boring. A little bit stressful, to be honest, but the other day started watching a new Netflix show called Sunderland Till I Die. I think I told you guys about that on the last show, and I said, you know what, I'm going to start wearing a jersey every day. And it started with my soccer jerseys because it gave me purpose. It felt like I was going to root for something that day. Not rooting for anything because there's no sports. So we cycled through the soccer jerseys. Today we landed on a baseball jersey, and we'll see what we get tomorrow. But it's Jersey Day, boys.
Yeah, it's been all right. Is the backlighting still that bad? Because last week I thought I looked like there was no natural light in my room. So I tried opening the shades, and you guys said it was really bad, so I closed them.
Here's what you should do, Lyle. Turn it around so you're facing the window so you have good light coming at your face.
Now, if you would have paid attention to videography, you would have learned that from good old Carl Lemon.
Carl Lemon did not teach Lyle, apparently. Taught all of us.
Also, Brady, I noticed you're drinking a Diet, you can't really see it, but I have like a whole Diet Coke mug.
Put it in front of your face. Put it in front of your face. There you go.
Yeah, it's a great one.
Oh, look at you, Lyle. Better lighting.
There we go.
That's a lot better. Now we can look into his closet. So
all three sweatshirts he wears.
Even better. All right, boys. So fun show coming this week. Later in the show, we're going to get to the next part of our mock draft. Last week we did 1 through 8. Today we're going to do 9 through 16. But I thought before we get to our mock drafts, it would be fun to start with a Q&A question that we got over on Twitter. So if you guys are watching right now on the YouTube stream, we're going to be answering a bunch of questions. So start typing them in the live chat. We'll get to the best ones. We'll get to as many as we possibly can. But the first one that I want to get to, guys, this was asked a few days ago. And this one comes from our good old buddy, Andrew Costner. He wants to know, what are some of your favorite childhood sports memories? So, right, he put sports moments, but sports moments, sports memories, whatever it may be. So if you're watching right now, Leave a comment what your favorite sports memory is. That it could be a game you were at, a game you watched on TV, but share with us some of your favorite sports memories. So, guys, I'll start with you. Again, this could be a game you were at, it could be a game you watched on TV, but what are some of your favorite sports memories from you when you were growing up?
Man, I have a few. I went to a bunch of Clippers games. I mean, I'm not a Clippers fan now. I've always been a Lakers fan, but I went to a bunch. I was like a half season ticket holder for the Clippers when they weren't expected to be very good, and then in 2006 they made a run to the conference semifinals and ended up losing to the Suns or something like that. And that was some of the most fun I've had, like consistently going to sporting events. But been to some good Dodger games. Been to a bunch of USC games. I was at the Jail Mary game. I was at the game where they beat Stanford and they stormed the field. But I think one of my favorite sports moments was Game 4 of the 2014 Western Conference quarterfinals in the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Kings were down 3-0 to San Jose. Beat San Jose in Game 4 to avoid getting swept. And I remember looking at my dad at that game and going, good Lord, they're going to win this series. And sure enough, the Kings were the 4th team in NHL history to come back from a 3-0 deficit. And then they went on to win the Cup. So that just being there for that was pretty wild.
Yeah, I've had a few. I mean, most of them have been related to the Seahawks. I mean, I've seen some good Notre Dame football games. The Mariners, I'm not even going to go there. But I mean, the Seahawks, yeah, I saw the Richard Sherman tip in 2013, or I guess it was the 2014 playoffs for the 2013 season. That was probably my favorite because that was as electric as a stadium as I've ever been in. Then the next year, that was cool. The NFC Championship against the Packers, that was also like for 55 minutes. It wasn't a great game. But then Seahawk wise, the wild card game that Blake and I went to 2 years ago between the D-backs and Rockies, that was pretty cool too. So, and that's the only playoff baseball game. Oh, and Brady was there. That's right. BK was there too. So the three of us.
It was that forgettable.
What's that?
It was that forgettable with Brady
It was that shocking that I was at a baseball game is what it was.
It really was. But that's the only playoff baseball game I've ever been to, which is why I'm not even going on the topic of the Mariners. So that was really cool, the Archie Bradley triple. So I'd say those are my couple.
That was in my list too, the Archie Bradley triple. That I've been to, honestly, this past year, going to the national championship was really cool. Seeing LSU win it, in Louisiana. My favorite sports memory, like growing up as a kid, was the 2011, December 10th, 2011, IU versus Kentucky basketball, Christian Watford hitting the buzzer beater to beat number 1 Kentucky. I mean, that was the day before my birthday. I remember what I was doing, where I was, everything about that moment. So that was probably my favorite, as a kid. And also Colts winning the Super Bowl was pretty cool too. I did cry though. I was 2006 Super Bowl. So I was 9 years old. And Devin Hester kick return touchdown opening kickoff. I first thought on it as we are screwed. We won, but that was one of my earliest sports memories too.
Which is a perfect transition to talking about the Saints beating the Colts in the Super Bowl just a few years later. But that was a little too early into my Saints fandom. I think I was only a Saints fan for like 3 years. So although it was great to see him win a Super Bowl, it wasn't as meaningful. I mean, being a fan of the Saints, Dodgers, and Clippers, there's not really a whole lot of great ones. There's a whole lot of bad ones that are easy. I'm going to start with talk about games that I've been to. The wild card game Lyle mentioned a few years back where Archie Bradley hit the triple. Never forget Archie Bradley once pooped his pants in a Major League Baseball game. Just had to throw that out there and remind everyone. But that was a great game to be at. I was at the 2017 Rose Bowl between SC and Penn State. That was, I think now it's the second highest scoring Rose Bowl in history. That was a very fun and exciting game. I'm drawing a blank. There's been a few other. There's been some good Dodgers games I've been to. Some really good Clippers games I've been to. Throw back to last year when I went to the Clippers playoff game by myself to see them lose by like 40 to the Warriors. That was a lot of fun. But I mean, there's been some good ones while watching on TV, like some great college football games, some good NFL games, some great NBA games. But being at a game, I think I said this on one of our previous shows, where the greatest game I've ever been to was the 2017 Rose Bowl between SC and Penn State. I think I've been to like 3 or 4 different Rose Bowl games. But the most exciting game I've been to was the Arizona State Arizona game from a few years back when ASU was down by like 20 points in the fourth quarter, and they came back and they won just because we were surrounded by a bunch of Arizona fans that were talking smack all game. They came back, they won. So that was really cool. But guys, really quick, we're getting some comments about my background here. A lot of people think that that's the new college football playoff format, which it should be. I just want to see how does it look for you guys? Is this a perfect 16 team bracket that you guys would be okay with if we had some college football soon?
I mean,
Well,
you know,
UC
I'm on
Davis.
board of the more teams, the better. So I'm down.
All I can
Josh,
say is
UC Davis just missed it, but they're number 3 in the FCS bracket.
all I can say
I
is
will
I
take
can't
it.
wait for a game in Salt Lake City in the middle of December or the beginning of January. That's got to be beautiful this time of year.
Moving on now to another couple questions we got on Twitter. This one comes from Woody Crisfield, and he said, should there be a separate playoff system for only group of 5 teams? That's an interesting one. That's something I don't think we've ever really talked about, having a different playoff format for like group of the group of 5 teams, whether that be a Final Four, an Elite Eight, a Sweet 16, something like that. What are your guys' thoughts on a group of 5 type of playoff format?
So I love that idea, and I would love to see it. My only concern, and this is just me playing devil's advocate, is it maybe, I don't want to say belittling, but then is it like maybe taking them out of the big picture? Like, okay, well, you guys can have your own playoff. I mean, personally, I would love to see it, but what if there's a team that's really good, like you have UCF a few years ago, which again, I don't think they deserve to be in the playoff. I don't think they're national champions, but that's beside the point. That's up for debate or however you want to look at it. I don't think most of those people are serious anyway. But do you want to make an argument that that team should be in the playoff, or do you just say, oh, no, it's fine, they have their own? That's just me
Well,
playing
I
devil's
think
advocate.
I think you say that if they're good enough at the end of the regular season, like adding that type of playoff, I don't think that would take away the chances that the group of 5 team has to get into the real playoff. I think it's if you're not one of the 4, then you can have your own playoff. But yeah, if UCF's a top 4 team, they're not going to get relegated to the group of 5 playoff. They can still make that other one. Or like I've always said, I mean, it'd be tough to do because it's so many games, but the group of 5 plays some tournament and the winner gets the last spot in the playoff if the playoff was formatted to 8 teams eventually.
So then maybe kind of treat it as like an at-large bid bowl game or something like that.
Yeah, like how I've always said, like, if you do the top 8, but like, if a group of 5 team isn't a clear cut one of the top 8 teams, then they'd have to like play the 8th seed to like, they'd have to play like a wild card playing game to get into the 8th seed against, say, I don't know, say like Oregon's an 8th seed, then Memphis could play Oregon to get into the real playoff. But yeah, aside from that, I'd be fine with a little group of 5 playoff.
What about like winner of each Power 5 conference, and then the 6th seed goes to a group of 5 play-in?
Well, that's kind of like how we talked about before, where you have like that. If you were to have like the 6 or 8 team playoff, again, I like the 6 one, but Lyle's given examples for an 8 team playoff that I think is really good too. But again, if you're going to have like that at-large bid, I think that one at-large needs to be given to a group of 5 school if there's one deserving. And if there's any debate on whether or not a team is deserving for an at-large bid, then clearly they're not deserving for it, I think. And I mean, obviously this is all hypotheticals, but if you have a team that's like, I mean, they had 2 losses to very whatever teams, but they were by far the best group of 5, do they get in? If that's one of the things, then all right, we give it to a conference runner-up who's a 1-loss team in the conference championship or something like that.
Yeah.
But I
or
guess
in that situation, Josh, like I've said, like you play like the 8th seed in Oregon, and if they're really that good, then they'd win that game and get it anyway. But if they're not that good, they lose, and they're like, okay, they played the playing game. It doesn't matter. Oregon deserves to be there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think there's like 2 different scenarios that you can do that'd be really good. I think the first is you just have like a normal college football playoff. You take like the 4 best from the group of 5, and then whoever wins that whole thing, they get like an at-large bid. Either you do that. I don't know how you'd make it work. I think that'd be cool. It's giving them something to play for. But if you don't have it where they're getting the at-large bid and essentially there's not going to be a group of 5 team that makes it anyway, then you just say screw it and you have like a full 16 or 24 team group of 5 bracket, because that's the thing. The group of 5, although none of these teams likely can compete with the top dogs, there's easily like 8 to 12 on any given year that can beat like the best group of 5 teams like this past year. Just the American Conference. If the American Conference itself had its own kind of like playoff format, that'd be some entertaining television. So either you figure out how you can have it like an at-large bid, or like again, I wouldn't mind seeing like a 16, a 24 team, just group of 5 FCS style. Because I think FCS is 24 teams, right?
I think so.
Yeah, so just do that. Their system's great, Brady.
What about this? This is something that I think I've proposed a little before, but I just thought of this when you brought it back up, is what if you do, instead of the conference championship, you do what basketball does and you have all teams meet at one site and just do overtime rules. So you go head to head, each team gets a minimum of say 3 to 5 possessions. All right. And you bracket it, the top to bottom, say in the Big Ten, 1 through, what would it be, 14 teams in the Big Ten, Pac-12, 1 through 12. And you have each team, bracket their way in, and the winner of the, this head to head overtime style shootout tournament's your conference champion.
So why are you playing a 12-game season then?
For seedings.
Just to come down to 3 possessions?
No, it'd be a 5 possession thing, or you play a quarter or a half or whatever, but you can do it all in a weekend or all in there. I'm just thinking of, a way to expedite, instead of having, a 16 team playoff that takes, 3 weeks, 4 weeks to do.
Well, I think it like something like that would be fun. The only thing about that is like, I'm trying to think about how much 4 possessions against one defense can like determine. That's the only thing I'm thinking.
Yeah, obviously this was a off the top of the head idea, not set in stone, here's what we should do idea. Or like a preseason. How about this? Let's change.
Preseason, that'd be fun.
Preseason, that's how you determine preseason seedings at the start.
I like it. I like thinking
That'd be
outside the
fun.
box,
Yeah.
something new,
Yeah.
something wild that BK came up with. Not bad. All right, guys, we have one more question before we get into our mock drafts. This comes from Toby Saga. It's a lot of letters and a lot of numbers. Honest opinion on Herm Edwards as the ASU coach, how far he is from making the school a perennial Pac-12 contender. Can he make them national title contenders? So we're getting 4 hot takes from ASU. Well, I guess 1 ASU graduate, 3 ASU students. But yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. We've talked about Herm Edwards in the past, but I don't think we've at least given our kind of like recent thoughts or updates on how he's done so far as the head coach. So what do you guys think about how Herm's done? And does ASU have a chance to potentially, I mean, national title contenders it might be a stretch, but at least Pac-12 title contenders, is that something that ASU can compete for this upcoming season?
Yeah, I think so. And I'll be honest, I think about this a lot. I think back to our show when we talked about Herm Edwards getting hired. And for the most part, we were all like, what is Ray Anderson doing? Like, what is the athletic department doing right now? I mean, maybe he'll be a good recruiter, but in terms of actually developing these guys on the field, what's going to happen? And, a 7-5 season and 8-4. What were they? Were 8-4 this year? 8-5?
8-5.
So he had back-to-back 7-5 seasons in his first 2 years in the regular season. And you know what? I'm fine with that. I don't think it's accepting mediocrity when you look at the program that he inherited, which wasn't in a bad state, but it could have been better. I think that if he sticks around ASU for at least 5 more years, I think maybe there could be a chance that we could see something bigger than a Pac-12 title. I don't think that happens because I don't think he sticks around at least 5 more years. I could totally see him doing something like what Chris Peterson just did at UW, where he kind of moves into an athletic department role, and I think he would just absolutely kill that. I think that last year was a big stepping stone for ASU, even without N'Keal Harry, and next year is going to be the same thing without Eno Benjamin, because next year I think the South runs through SC or it runs through ASU. So I would not be surprised to see a 9-win season next year, but I also wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised to see a 9 or 10-win season. I wouldn't be surprised to see a 7-win season. So we'll see. But I do think the future's bright.
Yeah, I mean, you look at what Todd Graham did in his last year, and record was similar to what Herm's done in his first 2 years. But when you look internally at the team, I mean, it's just so much different. With the recruiting pitch to all these guys is, you want to make it to the next level. You want to go to the NFL. I mean, look at the coaching staff we've got in here. You have Herm, you have Marvin Lewis, you have Antonio Pierce. I mean, these are all guys that were at the top of the top in terms of the NFL and NFL coaching jobs. I mean, these guys know what it takes to make it to the next level. I think that's a serious sales pitch that players are starting to take notice of. And because of it, I think that this program's only going to go up and up from here, especially with Herm at the helm. National championship talk, I think, like Blake said, that might be a bit of a stretch. If you wanted to pick one year where they might have a chance to really get some national noise, I would say it would be the 2021 season where Jaden would be a junior. They have 2 running backs that are going to be freshmen this year. You get them 1 year under their belt. They'll probably split carries. So when Jaden's a junior and a lot of this freshman class that we saw this year is going to be groomed, I think that's going to be their best chance to really make some noise. So does that lead to a national championship? That might be a bit of a stretch, but they could certainly be up in the double-digit wins and toward the top 12 or so in 2021, I think.
It's also it's more experience for the freshmen that are coming in this next year, which is just going to be an elite wide receivers class too.
Yeah, so yeah, you got like Johnny Wilson coming in there.
Johnny Johnson.
Train them in with
LV.
with Nada. I mean, yeah, those guys are going to be ready as sophomores too.
And you get a guy like LV, Bunkley Shelton, who's a stud outside receiver, can just go up and make a catch and make a play. Coming in as a freshman receiver, I mean, he's going to be a fun target to pair with, a guy like Frank Darby. But you look at this receiving core, you lose 2 of your 3 main receivers for the Sun Devils. Your 3 receivers were Kyle Williams, Brandon Ayuk, and Frank Darby. And now all you have is Frank Darby. Granted, he was, I'd say, split with the top receiver for ASU this past year. I think he's going to do a great job this next year, but the loss of offensive weapons for ASU is what's going to question a bit this year. The defense lost nothing. Like the ASU defense this past year lost nothing. They weren't great throughout the year, but we saw spurts at the end, especially in the Oregon game and against U of A, where they were able to shut down when they needed to. But the offensive weapons, I think, like what Lyle said, 2021 is going to be a big year, where you get the guys who are going to be freshmen, will be sophomores. Jaden will be a junior. You'll have a majority of your defensive pieces there still, say none leave. I think you have a solid chance to have a pretty good core in 2021. I don't think it's a national championship core. I definitely think it could be, a Pac-12 championship New Year's 6 core, but not a playoff.
I think we've experienced this over the last few years, and that's the fact that ASU is the absolute best mediocre team in college football without a doubt, where like on any given like quarter, they look like they could be a Pac-12 and probably national championship contender. Then the next quarter, they look absolutely disgraceful. I like what Lyle mentioned. I mean, I don't have the list of every college's coaching staff, but it's tough to argue that ASU doesn't have like arguably the best in regards to prepping, maybe not the best like experience college football wise, but the best to get you at least the most prep for the NFL, because like the amount of years of NFL experience on the coaching staff, it definitely has to be more than any other school in the country. But I just want to quickly mention, guys, so last year ASU went 8-5, which is a mediocre season. You'll take it. But looking at some of their losses, they lost by 3 to Colorado in a game where they easily could have won that one. Their Utah game, that was just disgraceful. They lost by 10 to UCLA, which we were at. And no idea how they played so poorly, but if they were to play that game again, I think ASU were to beat UCLA. They lost to SC by 5, and I think in that game, that's the game where ASU was driving and they threw an interception.
That's the game where Jaden was out. Jaden was didn't play that game, and then Tommy Hudson dropped an open pass for.
So yeah, down. I mean they could have easily won that
Tommy.
game on a final touchdown drive. They lost to Oregon State by 1 because they decided to go for 2 instead of just tying the game, potentially going to overtime. A lot of things could have happened and gone a different way, but ASU was like that close to being a 10 or 11 win team last season, which is kind of crazy to think about. Again, the SC game, they could have won that one. Oregon State one could have won that one. UCLA should have won that one. Colorado should have won that one. That's 4 wins right there. Even if you take 2, all of a sudden ASU's a 10-3 team, potentially an 11-win team, probably making the Pac-12 title game because they just missed it in the final weeks of the season. So again, they finished it as an 8-win team, but they were that close to being not only a Pac-12 contending team, but potentially not. Again, I'm not saying a playoff team, but they could have been like around the 8-9 seed, because when they they beat Cal, didn't they climb up to 16 or 15 in the rankings? Didn't they get that high this past season?
It was
And then they
something like
lost.
that, but their thing is, and it's something that we've seen repeatedly over the last couple of years, not only in football but also in men's basketball. They go on the road and they beat somebody big, and then they come home and they lose to somebody that they should beat by 30 points. And it's like you go. I know Michigan State wasn't a great team this year, but you go on the road and you earn a gritty, hard-fought win over a Big Ten team on the road in a tough environment, and then come home and give up 3 touchdowns and over 150 yards receiving to Colorado's 4th wide receiver and get beat by Colorado. And then,
Hey, just remember,
you go up
Laviska
to,
Shenault wasn't on the field, but he was on Mill.
they lost their top 3 players. They lost Laviska, they lost a running back, and they lost what's his name on defense? I don't remember his name. And they lost one of their top offensive linemen too, and they still ran up the score on ASU. And then they go on the road and they beat Cal, who was good at the time. And then they go up later in the season and they lose to Oregon State and they get beat up by UCLA on the road. It's like, man, some of the losses are so bad, but then a lot of the wins are really good. So it just doesn't, I never understood it in 4 years here. I've never gotten it, but I guess it's
Right.
promising.
But I mean, pretty much, I guess, because I didn't really answer. To answer the question, Herm Edwards has done a fantastic job. I don't think they were expecting them to be, winning 10 games a year right away. It's kind of going to be a slow build. And the recruiting he's done has been absolutely fantastic. They're pretty much kind of putting Southern California on lockdown. They just hired Chris Hawkins, who used to be at USC, who was like a SoCal guy. They pretty much went and snagged him. Well, I don't know. What's his official title? Is it? He's essentially a recruiter.
He's a recruiter, but I
he's-
think he's a position coach as well.
I think he's a
Yeah,
DB's coach or a
Yeah.
defensive analyst.
A
or something.
DB's coach.
Yeah.
So the recruiting's been fantastic. It's going to be exciting to see what they do this upcoming season because their wide receivers are going to be fantastic. But overall, very impressed with what Herm Edwards has done so far.
One of the things that we've talked about before, and I say all the time, is, all right, if you're not going to be able to fight for, those big 4 schools, let's call them Alabama, LSU, Clemson, Ohio State, and Georgia, let's say, just throwing 5 out. All right, how do you compete for the next group? All right, I'd say 6 through 35, the elite schools. You got to have experience. When you are in a recruit meeting and in walks Super Bowl champion, Captain Antonio Pierce, and Herm Edwards and Hall of Famer Kevin Maway, you say, all right, this is the place I want to go. These are guys that know what they're doing. They're top level, top respected. I mean, all of them. I think this is just a top tier recruiting staff. And like you said, Blake, the SoCal poll has just been huge.
And then not to mention they got Marvin Lewis, who what's his official title? I mean, he's their
defensive coordinator.
Oh, so that's right. They promoted him, but when he came in last year, he was just like Herm's assistant.
He was assistant to the head. He was like assistant to the regional manager.
Okay,
he was like a special assistant for Herm. That's right. But now he's.
I forgot. They promoted him.
I do.
Him and Antonio Pierce are split defensive coordinators.
That's right. Yeah.
Which I'm intrigued to see how that's going to work out, because I'm not saying that they're going to argue or anything, but wouldn't it be a little bit better to have one defensive coordinator? I know on paper having 2 qualified guys split duties, I feel like sounds good, but is it? I mean, I do think that losing Danny Gonzalez, which you knew was going to happen, and that morning he said, I am fully committed to Arizona State. And then what was it later that night? He was being announced. It was at the New Mexico basketball game. Whatever, Danny. But I think losing Danny Gonzalez and then was it Tony White, right?
Yeah.
Losing both of those guys, I think is pretty bad. But when you've got AP and these other guys backing them up, I think the coaching staff is nice. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I agree. But when Marvin Lewis, when he first came on, everyone's like, what does that mean? Does that mean he's getting Herm Edwards' coffee or something with whatever his job title was? But guys, it's time to move on to our
real quick. If you watch the HBO series, they went to each school. They did Washington State, Penn State, Florida, and ASU. The ASU one, and not Antonio Pierce. They're all running meetings. All these, assistants, all these special analysts, they're running meetings. They're doing things. They know how to run a program. And that's what we saw when Herm came in. Everyone's like, oh, he's not going to coach. He's just going to be the face for the team. Well, that's a little different. He's been pulling big guys who know what they're doing and have been made a really good pull. So over these guys, They're jokes. They're getting coffee. No, they're running meetings. They're doing real stuff.
All right, guys, it's 5:30 Pacific time. Let's try to wrap this up by at least 6. That way we can answer some questions from the comments. But it's time for part 2 of our mock draft now. Last week we did our picks 1 through 8. Today we're going to do picks 9 through 16. Again, it's just how the current draft looks right now. If you guys want to make trades, if you guys want to make some bold picks, you're more than welcome to do that. But as of right now, the Jaguars are on the clock for number 9. And whether or not you have them as your number 9 picking team and your draft is your own thing. So, Josh, let's kick things off with your number 9 overall pick. And I think you said you wanted to switch some things up from last week, so this will be fun to see.
Yes, I did. I don't remember what you guys did, but I was talking to a couple of my roommates today, and I read over some stuff. And then when we were getting ready for the show today, I went and I looked back at what I had before, and I did not change the order. I'm still going to go with what we have now moving forward for the rest of the first round. I'm not doing any trades, which I guess makes things a little complicated when you think, all right, well, this is probably unrealistic and they're not going to take this person. But I'm just going to go with what we've got on paper. So going back to the first round, I actually switched my Detroit Lions pick with the 3rd overall pick. I had them taking Isaiah Simmons from Clemson because I figured, if they need a linebacker, they need a defensive back. There's a guy that does both right there. Now I did switch this around a little bit because now I'm thinking they probably just need defensive help in general since they lose Darius Slay. So I'm switching that pick to have them take Jeff Okudah from Ohio State. So I have him at number 3. I kept Jedrick Willis from Alabama at number 4 to the Giants. 2 is going to the Dolphins, Herbert to the Chargers. And then with number 7, I have Carolina taking Isaiah Simmons since Okudah is now off the board. So I essentially just switched those 2 picks. And then with what I had ready for the second round, I ended up switching 2 more picks. One of my roommates is a Cardinals fan. I went and looked at some redone draft rankings that came out this week instead of last week. Talked to my roommate who's a Cardinals fan. So I kept them taking an offensive tackle, but instead of who did I have before? I had Andrew Thomas from Georgia. I switched it to Tristan Wirfs from Iowa. And I think that one of you guys had that too, which I thought was funny that I'm pretty sure all 4 of us had the Cardinals taking an offensive lineman and all 4 of us had somebody else. So I'm actually switching mine to Tristan Wirfs. So then that kind of, I don't want to say that complicates things, but I had a lot more trouble doing picks 9 through 16 than I did 1 through 8, which I guess goes without saying. But I stuck with the offensive line, and for Jacksonville at number 9, I have him taking Mekhi Becton from Louisville. I think it's an upgrade on the offensive line. Plus, if you can slide him in at tackle, I think you can switch around a couple other guys on the line too. And I think that just bolsters the guys up front. So I have Mekhi Becton from Louisville at number 9.
Okay, so in about 15 seconds to recap my 8 from last week: Burrow, Chase Young, Okudah, Simmons, Tua, Jordan Love, Derek Brown, Mekhi Becton. That's my 1 through 8. Number 9, Jaguars. Look, this is a team that a couple years ago was the best defensive team in the league. They've gotten away from that. They could really use some defensive help, especially in the interior line area. They could seriously use an upgrade at an interior line position. And for that reason, I've got Javon Kinlaw at 9. I mean, this guy has shot up draft boards this year from South Carolina. He created a whole lot of havoc in the SEC, and people think this guy's a prospect, has a chance to be through the roof. So I've got Kinlaw at 9 to the Jags.
Go ahead, Josh.
Sorry, where do you have Derek Brown? Do you already have him off the board?
Yeah, he was at 7. So second.
Okay. I just wanted to. I just missed that real quick. So okay.
As we've been going through this, I've been trying to watch the last week's episode and go and find what my picks were. I didn't write them down as we were going along. I did, but I lost a Post-it note. So I got to go recount and refigure out what I did. But I'm almost positive I don't have any duplicates. But if I do, I'll fix it later. At 9, I'm similarly with Josh. I got them going with Mekhi Becton. With the uncertainty of the quarterback scenario in Jacksonville, there was talks that, say Herbert fell to 9, they could jump on a guy like Justin Herbert at 9. But I don't see them moving on from Gardner Minshew after one, semi-successful year. So if you're going to roll with Gardner Minshew, you want to get a guy that's a solid offensive lineman, solid tackle. I mean, he just had a crazy combine. I think he ran the fastest, like a 4.87, something ridiculous like that. Mekhi Becton did. So I got Becton at 9 to Jacksonville.
Yeah, I'm just going to recap my top 8 from last week really quickly. It went Burrow, Young, Okuda, Simmons, Tua, Herbert, Derek Brown, and then Tristan Wirfs. At my number 9, this is as Josh said, it's going to get kind of interesting and tough here because a lot can happen between these depending on if teams trade out, what happens. Which we didn't even talk about how the whole draft is going to be like virtual. Maybe we can get to that at the end of the show. The Jaguars, they can do a bunch here. They can go quarterback if they just really don't believe in Gardner Minshew. If a guy like Herbert, Tua, Jordan Love, if they're high in one of them, they're kind of slipping. Maybe they can trade up. They can maybe get a wide receiver, to go along with DJ Chark. They can get like a CD Lamb, Jerry Judy, something like that. But I think overall they need to make like a smart pick and again go to protect whoever the quarterback's going to be. And there again, we talked about it last week. There's like 3 to 4 guys that have the chance to be all pro. They have a chance to be really good offensive pieces. But I'm going to go with Jedrick Wills from Alabama. I can't remember. I think Josh had him as like his like it was like his number 1 tackle last week. But I mean, pretty much wherever they're at. Again, if you're getting one of these 4 tackles between Wirfs, Wills, Thomas, and Becton, if you're getting one of those 4, it's going to be a good pick. But it just depends on how the drafts look. And I think the smart pick is to go offensive tackle. But if you want to get, creative, if you want to go bold, if you want to draft Jordan Love, as I mentioned, maybe like a CD Lamb, I think those are going to be fine picks as well.
Yeah, I don't think there's much of a difference between, or I don't think there's a huge discrepancy between the offensive linemen, at least these like top 4. I think it just depends on what you're looking for, which I think is funny how all 4 of us, like our first 4 offensive linemen off the board are all in completely different positions too.
Yeah. Which then is the fun part because I'm sure come draft night, it's going to be some random 2 that come out of nowhere and just like mess everything up. All right, guys, or unless Josh has something else he wants to add.
Oh, no, I was just going to go to number 10.
All right, number 10, as of now, it's the Cleveland Browns. So let's see if everyone has the Browns picking at 10.
The Browns is another interesting one because if Carolina doesn't take Isaiah Simmons at 7, or if he doesn't get picked in the top 7, I think he could fall all the way down to 10 or 11. Again, I have him at number 7 to Carolina now, and I don't have Derek Brown off the board in my top 9. So when it comes down to Derek Brown right here, I think the Browns could go offensive line, or I think they could just go on the defensive side of the ball. They could use an edge rusher. I think there are some better edge rushers already off the board. And for me, that leaves who I think is the best defensive player available at this point. And for me, that's Derek Brown.
So the Browns, I mean, obviously these guys had such high expectations last year. Maybe they were put a little too high because they didn't live up anything close to that. So now it's kind of back to the drawing board for these guys this season. Look, Baker didn't look like himself after having such a good rookie year. He looked pretty off in year 2. I know he's really kind of working to have himself a bounce back year in year 3. And I think something that could help this team is, look, their identity is their offense. You got guys like Odell and Jarvis and Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb on your offense. Well, these guys need time. These guys need some protection. And spoiler alert, I think in this 10 to 16 type range, there's going to be a whole lot of linemen and receivers going off the board. I don't know what you guys put, but spoiler, that's what I've got. And I have them taking Tristan Wirfs here because they need some protection on the O-line, get Baker some time, get your receivers open. And this guy's a physical freak.
I had the same thought process last week when I took Wirfs to the Cardinals at 8. And some might say that's a reach to take him at 8, but he's like Lyle said, he's a freak athlete. The guy can play interior and outside offensive line. You really can put him anywhere. And if you need a learning process, you put him on the inside and teach and move out, or outside and move in, whatever you need to do. My thing for the Browns is, like Lyle said, they have all the offensive weapons. They got the receivers, they got the running backs, they got the quarterback who has the athletic ability and has the ability to be a good quarterback in the NFL. But the one thing that the Browns, bolstered for so long was how great Joe Thomas was, right? He played every snap, every down for 14 years. He's going to be a Hall of Famer, one of the best offensive linemen to ever do it, right? And that's a big void that's being left in this Browns organization, is a solid offensive lineman. So I got them going Jedrick Wills with at 10. They need a solid tackle. You can throw him on the left side. He's an athletic guy. And so make him, fill that spot that you've been missing from Joe Thomas for the last 2 years.
Well, they did sign Jack Conklin this offseason, so that's a good addition for them. And Lyle, you were talking about how good their offense is. I completely forgot because I feel like it kind of went under the radar. They added Austin Hooper as well
Did they
as their
really?
tight end.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
a
they
few
did. So
weeks
there's another
they added
piece.
Austin Hooper. So I mean, overall they got a really dominant offense. This is one here where I think you got to make, the smart pick. It depends on who's available, but again, offensive tackle. All of our rankings are completely different yet again. I got them going with again. I think all of us have pronounced his name wrong. Mekai Becton, however you want to
Mackay.
say it, from Mekai Becton from Louisville. Again, it's just a matter of whoever the best offensive lineman tackle is at this spot. Depends on what you like more. If you like size more, if you like technique more, any of that stuff. So I think they got to go offensive tackle here. And again, it's just whoever the best available is. And for me, that's who I got at number 10. So I think we all can agree going, offensive lineman right there is the smart move, which brings us to number 11 when I feel like things are going to start getting really exciting for the Jets. Josh, I'm sure you asked your roommate, good old tall Matt, for some advice on this pick.
You're muted, Josh.
Well, I asked who he would want. For me, I had two guys written down, and it was Jerry Jeudy and it was CeeDee Lamb. And sorry, it was Jerry Jeudy or it was Henry Ruggs. Either one of the guys from Alabama. I think Ruggs would be a good fit. I asked him who he wanted. He said Jerry Jeudy. That was my gut pick too. So I've got Jerry Jeudy. They've no more Robbie Anderson. And I think that Jerry Jeudy would fill that void well with the offense. And I think it'd be a good target for Sam Darnold.
Okay, so the easy pick here is to go wide receiver, and I know that's what a lot of mocks having, and this is kind of where the run of wide receivers starts is at 11 with the Jets. I pumped the brakes on it a little bit, and back to what I was saying about the Browns about building your team in the trenches and then spreading it out from there. The Jets need some help on the offensive line, and there's no better example of that than Le'Veon Bell, the once godchild of a running back who went to average 3.2 yards per carry last season because he had nobody to block for him. Well, insider scoop, this is why you don't dump your bank account for a running back, New York Jets. But for that reason, I've got him taking Jedrick Wills at 11 because, again, there's a lot of wide receiver talent. This is also the deepest wide receiver class this draft has ever seen. If the Jets want some wide receivers, they can take a guy in the second round. They can take another in the third round for all they care. But I think these 4 offensive tackles are really good, and I think you should kind of bolster up your offensive line. So that's why I have Wills here.
So I wasn't in going into this, the trades were something that we've looked at. We're like, oh, we could do them. And it'd be pretty easy to just not do a trade and keep it straightforward. But I'm actually going to make a trade here. I'm going to take the 11th pick for the Jets. They're going to trade with 14 in Tampa Bay. So Tampa Bay is going to jump to 11. The Jets will drop back to 14th, and there'll be like a 5th rounder or whatever included. I'm not going to go into extra details. I have Tampa Bay moving up to take the next best available offensive tackle. You just got a pretty nice new toy, Tampa Bay did, and they need to protect him. Hi, Tom Brady. How you doing? They're taking Andrew Thomas at 11. I have Tampa jumping up to that 11 spot to take Thomas there to get a solid offensive tackle. I could even see him jumping up to 10 with Cleveland if they want to get a solid offensive tackle before one of those teams that needs it. The last thing you want to do is dump $30 million into a quarterback and have him get hurt in the first game. So you need a solid offensive lineman. So they're trading with 11 with New York. You're muted, Blake.
Well done, Brady. I like it. Well done. If there were odds for who's going to make a trade, I think you probably would have been last on the board because you'd be trying to figure out who you're just going with in general. So well done with the trade. Actually, it makes sense because the Buccaneers, I mean, yeah, you kind of need to protect your 50-year-old quarterback who you're going to have for the next 2 seasons. And I mean, maybe things go right and one of these 4 guys can fall to them at 14, but if not, I could easily see them trading because I think, what was it? Lyle mentioned this I think it's Lyle that mentioned this, where this is such a deep wide receiver class. Yeah, it'd be nice to get one of these shiny new toys right here in the first round, but you're going to be getting studs in the second and third round, so you don't necessarily have to go for that leap. So if they can trade back a few spots,
and if you look,
trade back and get one of them still.
Exactly, that's what I was going to say. Is they jump back, they drop 3-4 spots from 11 to 14. Yeah. So all right, there's those 3 or 4 first round receivers, the 2 Bama guys, and you've got a CeeDee Lamb from Oklahoma too. All right, say they go boom, boom, boom right after that pick. Well, then you get one of those 3 still.
Right.
Really can't go wrong with either of those three receivers.
Yeah, for mine, you can go either, but I'm just going to go wide receiver because they did lose Robbie Anderson, and you need Sam Darnold to throw the ball to someone. I mean, I couldn't name you the top 3 wide receivers for the Jets currently. And when you got a guy like Jerry Jeudy, who I think is the best wide receiver in this class, I know a bunch of people are kind of like back and forth between him and CD, but Jerry Jeudy, the comparisons he's been getting, a lot of people think he's going to be like maybe the next Julio Jones, something like that. So if you can get arguably the best wide receiver in this class, I say you got to go for it because again, Sam Darnold, he's the guy you invested in a few years ago. He's your future quarterback. If you can get him a guy like Jerry Jeudy to throw the ball to, then all of a sudden you're smooth sailing. But they can hold off, they can trade back. But if a guy like Jerry Judy's there at 11, I think he's the guy you got to go with. It moves on now, guys, to pick number 12, the Las Vegas Raiders.
I've seen a lot of people like projecting that the Raiders are going to take a receiver too. But for me, if I have Jeudy going first, or if I have Jeudy going to the Jets first rather than the Jets taking somebody else or going away from receiver or trading, I don't think it's kind of like what Lyle had said. I don't think it's worth it for the Raiders to take a wide receiver here based off of what else they need. I could see, I think they could use some help on the defensive side of the ball, in which case I have Javon Kinlaw going here from South Carolina. And then here's the thing with the Raiders. They don't have a second round pick, but they have 2 third-round picks. So with them picking 12th and then nothing for the rest of the first round or the second round and then 2 in the third round coming up, this wide receivers class is so deep that there are still going to be a couple of elite receivers on the board come 3rd, 4th round. And I have, let me see if I still have it pulled up. I have the list of all the receivers in this class. No, I guess I closed out of it. Like, they have some elite guys that were really good in college, like still on the board in like late 3rd, 4th round, guys that at some point were originally projected to be potentially 1st or 2nd rounders until the season kind of went on. I think they could easily still get a good wide receiver early in the 3rd or late in the 3rd round. So for me, I've got Javon Kinlaw here, and then wait on your wide receiver for a couple more rounds. Go with your 2nd or 3rd pick with a wide receiver.
Yeah, so they could go a couple different ways with this. I guess Josh had the Raiders waiting on a wide receiver. I had the Jets waiting on a wide receiver. But here I do have the Jets taking a receiver. First one off the board, it's CeeDee Lamb. And I've seen him linked to the Raiders a good handful of times. I mean, this guy, he's gotten some really, really, high comparisons. I've heard the DeAndre Hopkins one, which is like through the roof. I mean, the guy's big, he's fast, he's a good route runner. He's pretty much the full package. So for a team that lost out on Antonio Brown brought him into their training camp and then, everything went down, they've got to fill some holes at wide receiver. So I've got him taking CeeDee here.
Hey, Lyle, remember when a CeeDee Lamb couldn't get you 2 points and couldn't have you advance to our college football championship in fantasy football?
So when Lincoln decided, I'm going to play 20% of the snaps and announce him healthy, dude, ESPN needs college fantasy football because Yahoo doesn't update anything. Our friend TJ and I were talking about this the other day when he had his wide receivers sleep through practice, miss the game, not play, and he lost his semifinal round.
Wasn't that
really
on TJ for not paying attention, though?
Well, part of
TJ
it,
did not
but
pay attention. Like, I knew his receiver was out before he did, and I wasn't even playing him.
Yeah, really quickly, for those of you that don't know what we're talking about, we do a college football fantasy league through Yahoo, and Lyle and I were playing each other in the semifinals this year, and our games were completed, and he just had CeeDee Lamb to play, and I think I was up by like 2 or 3 points, and Lyle, I think, was maybe on the call or he was doing something in the studio for the game, and pretty much what happened was CeeDee Lamb, barely even played, and Lincoln didn't even announce that he wasn't going to play. So had Lincoln just said CeeDee Lamb's barely going to play, barely going to get any snaps, Lyle literally could have swapped in any wide receiver to get at least like 3 points. He would have gone to the championship. I ended up beating Lyle by 1 point because CeeDee got like a nice 2 points or something like that. I think.
CeeDee actually played first. You had Isaiah Hodgins left, by the way, another wide receiver.
Oh, that's right.
Good, and we'll probably go late. CeeDee played first. He put up like 9 points because he only played like 20% of the snaps.
That's right.
Going into the 4th quarter, you were down by like 1 point. You needed 1 catch from Hodgins. There was like 6 minutes to go. Of course, he gets it. And I was
that's right.
Me, Lincoln, ESPN needs college fantasy football.
That they do.
So we're on what, pick 12 now? Is that what it is?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep it short and sweet here. I've got the Raiders taking Jerry Jeudy, first receiver off the board. They need some weapons for Marcus Mariota.
Yeah, I like that one. For me, I got the Raiders taking CD Lamb. He just seems like a perfect fit for the Raiders. I mean, just like his swag that he has, just the way he is on the field, I think that just fits the Raiders. I think that fits Vegas. I mean, again, it depends on what kind of happens here. Now, they also could wait because they have pick number 19, I think it is. So they can just wait and take a wide receiver at pick 19. But again, although it's deep, it's just you got like Judy, Lamb, Ruggs. Those are kind of like the top three guys that are just difference makers. I think it'd be kind of tough to pass one of those up and take your chance at 19, whoever you got. So if I'm the Raiders, you got to go wide receiver here. And again, whoever's the best available, go with that. But I think CeeDee Lamb's a perfect fit for Vegas right there, which brings us now to pick number 13 that is no longer owned by the Indianapolis Colts. They traded that pick. So sorry, Brady, you can't give your Colts pick right here. It's the 49ers.
I'll take the Forrest Buckner over a new guy anyway, so it's fine.
Now, do they go quarterback here at 13 because they desperately need one? But we'll have to wait and see. So, Josh, what do you got for a pick 13?
So when I said that 9 through 16 were the toughest for me, what I meant was 13 through 16 were the toughest for me. I think there are a couple different ways they can go right here. But if you want to add a little bit more explosiveness to your offense, for me, the easy choice is CeeDee Lamb because I have Jerry Jeudy getting taken at 11 by the Jets. So I think that the Niners right here could add a little more explosiveness to their offense, give Jimmy Garoppolo another option, and I see them taking CeeDee Lamb from OU.
Yeah, I had CD at 12, and when the Niners originally made this pick, obviously I started thinking, what are they going to do here? Is it going to be somebody like Kinlaw? Is it going to be a receiver? And I almost want to throw up in my mouth a little bit saying this, but in my mock, I have him taking Jerry Jeudy because, I mean, this guy's the best route runner in the draft. His ability to run routes is like elite level. He had an unbelievable career at Bama. And then they lost Emmanuel Sanders, of course. So you have Deebo Samuel, who had a great rookie year. And then obviously you want to get him some more help, which Blake, of course, also allows their $28 million quarterback to sit back, half asleep behind the wheel, run Kyle Shanahan's plays, and take credit for it. But CeeDee Lamb, I think, is going to be a fantastic CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy both, I think, are going to be fantastic NFL receivers. So I've got Jerry Jeudy going 13 to the Niners.
You know, I just read in the comments, people are saying, wait, Derek Carr left, Mariota starting over Derek Carr. No, it hasn't been announced yet, but I think absolutely yes, that happens. And just responding to some of the people in the comments here, I think hands down Marcus Mariota would be a better choice for the Raiders than Derek Carr. Moving on to 13, CeeDee Lamb, San Francisco is just a solid match. They're not going to take a quarterback. They have too much money invested in a quarterback, a model that hands off the ball, and that's all he does. So I think a wide receiver for them to maybe get a little more air attack. They have a decent run game. They have a good tight end. They got George Kittle there, so they need an outside receiver that can make explosive plays. And I think CeeDee Lamb's their guy.
Yeah, I mean, the Niners, it seems like before they made this trade with the Colts, they need to take a wide receiver, especially now with Emmanuel Sanders. He left to join the Saints. Deebo Samuel, I think he was one of the better rookie wide receivers last year, but I still think they need to bring in someone else. Now, again, this is one of those picks where it just depends on how the picks fall, how the board's looking, but I think they got to take the best wide receiver available. For me, currently, it's Henry Ruggs. I think there's a chance that CeeDee Lamb or Jerry Jeudy can fall to them, which of course those would be even better picks. But if Henry Ruggs is right there, I think you got to take the chance. I think you got to make the pick for him because again, Henry Ruggs, fastest guy, in college football this past season. He still claims that he can beat the John Ross record, so he might be the fastest player in the NFL next year. But I think if you're the Niners, you got to go wide receiver right here. You got to give the great Jimmy Garoppolo some more weapons, the elite Jimmy Garoppolo, the almost Super Bowl champion Jimmy Garoppolo. I think you got to give him something else. So again, if Jerry Jeudy or CeeDee Lamb can go to the Niners, that'd be an absolutely phenomenal pick. But I think Henry Ruggs, another guy where a lot of other years, Henry Ruggs might be the number one wide receiver prospect. It's just that, there was an even better wide receiver prospect on his own team where this guy at the end of the year at Bama, he'd be the number one guy. So Henry Ruggs, I think that's the pick right there. But again, whoever the best wide receiver available is, that's got to be the pick for the 49ers, which then does bring us to pick number 14. For I guess 3 of us, it's the Buccaneers, but for someone else, it's a different team. But all right, guys, pick number 14.
Yep. So for the Bucks, this was another one that I wasn't sure where I wanted to go. And keep in mind, I originally had Andrew Thomas going 8 to the Cardinals, and then I switched some things around where I have Tristan Wirfs now going to the Cardinals. So for me, Andrew Thomas is still on the board, in which case I think why not get your new quarterback, Tom Brady, a little bit more protection. So I could see Tampa Bay picking up Andrew Thomas for the offensive line.
I was wondering how many times this was going to happen once we got deeper and deeper in the draft. But BK, I have your pick 3 picks later. Josh, I'm going to double up with you, and this is where I have Andrew Thomas, the fourth before offensive tackles going. I mean, the Bucks are more than set at wide receiver. Godwin, Evans, those guys are studs. They're elite wide receivers. And yeah, get Tom Brady some protection, or heaven forbid what could happen if he's getting sacked left and right back there. So you get a guy like Thomas to kind of bolster up the offensive line. I think that's a pretty safe pick for the Bucks.
New uniforms.
I
What
like
are
them.
your thoughts on them?
They're good.
They're good.
They're solid.
I like them.
I like them. They seem kind of like a throwback, even though they wore them like 10 years ago or even more recently. They just need to have some sort of creamsicle jersey, and it's going to be perfect.
The bold colors of all of them, a solid red and the gray brown is really good.
They should mix and match a little bit. Like they posted saying, what's your favorite combination? But obviously, I think that there are a lot more combinations you can go to with 3 different helmets, jerseys, pants, socks. There's 3 of each. So I'd like to see them mix and match a little bit, because they only posted 3, and it was
only one helmet each. Only one helmet.
Oh, they only have the gray helmet, right?
Yeah.
I think
until next year when the NFL lifts that rule.
Yeah. So if they only have the one gray helmet, then fine. But I think like they could mix and match the jerseys and the socks and the pants a little bit, and that would be cool.
Yeah. All right. So for this pick here with 14, I had the trade between the Jets and Tampa Bay. And Lyle, like you said, you had Thomas falling to 14, but I think this is one of those cases where moving up 3 spots is a safe move within the first round. So a couple of years ago, we saw the Colts jump from, was it 6 to the 2nd pick and the draft to grab Quentin, or 4th pick to grab Quentin Nelson, the moving only a couple spots, or drop from 2 to 6, whatever it was. They moved just a couple spots and got their solid offensive linemen. So now at this point in the draft, I think it's a safe enough move to move 3 or 4 spots. I have the Jets going with Henry Ruggs here. I know, like we've talked about, you get those 3 teams that need the receivers right in a row. All right, at that point, the Jets could have 1st pick, or they could have 3rd pick and see what the other teams do. But in all honesty, 3rd pick is still 1st pick in any other year's draft. So you're really going to get any solid outside threat for a quarterback who, we haven't seen his potential. He had mono. He was a rookie. He had mono, and now this year. So we're going to see hopefully a full year of Sam Darnold being a decent quarterback in the NFL with hopefully a good receiver in Henry Ruggs.
I like it.
Yeah, I do too. Well done, Brady. Well done.
Hey, I know my draft. I know my draft stuff. I do some draft stuff.
But I mean, I'm going to go with Andrew Thomas here at 14 just because I didn't do any trades. So that's just kind of how I had him falling. But I'm not going to be shocked if the Bucks trade, if someone else trades, because I just don't think, again, with these 4 offensive linemen that are kind of like the 4 guys, I don't think any of them are going to be sitting there at 14. I think we might have some teams that are going to trade up a few picks just to get their guy, because as Brady mentioned with the Quentin Nelson pick, yeah, the Colts had to trade up. But look how that's turned out for them. It's been a pretty good move. So I think some of these teams are just going to want to trade up. But I have him at 14 still there, so I have the Bucks taking him. I think he's going to go a lot sooner. Guys, pick number 15. We got 2 more to go. The Denver Broncos.
So I think they could go cornerback here. I also think that I think they need offensive line help. But at this point, I've got like those top 4 or 5 already off the board, especially with Thomas being picked at 14, 1 pick before the Broncos go. And I don't think it's worth reaching for Joshua Jones from Houston or Austin Jackson for SC. They're both projected to go late 1st round and mid 1st round. I think that's a hell of a reach. They also pick at like 45th or 46th, which is either the 14th or 15th pick of the 2nd round, whichever one it is. I don't remember which pick they actually have, but they're picking mid 2nd round too. I think there's an offensive tackle available then. I think they can get a cornerback later. So when I think about their offense last year, I thought they had 2 decent running backs, but offensively things just were kind of unremarkable in my opinion. So why not, go for, in my opinion, the number 3 receiver here and take Henry Ruggs.
This is where I have Ruggs too. I mean, people forget Drew Lock toward the end of his rookie season. I mean, those last couple games, he was really good.
Yeah.
And he was a guy that fell all the way to the second round because people had a lot of question marks on him. But I mean, for a short little spurt of time, he proved himself. He needs some help on the offensive side of the ball, especially, you lose Sanders, Demaryius Thomas isn't there anymore. They're kind of turning over this offense. I mean, it was a lot of veterans. Now they're starting to get young again. The only thing with Ruggs is how much John Ross does he have in him, in the sense where he can kind of only run one route? And does he actually run so fast that his body can't keep up, like the way John Ross got hurt at the combine? Henry Ruggs got a little bit banged up at the combine running the 40. So that's why I have the 2 receivers over Ruggs beforehand, is, how much can his body take? But if he's healthy and he's on the field, then he can run some good go routes. I mean, Drew Lock's got a good arm. That could be a really nice connection. So that's why I've got Ruggs at 15.
If Thomas or Becton is still available, I think they should still go offensive line, though.
Yeah, but I don't think either.
Yeah, my 4
I don't. I'm just saying, if somebody's there, I say go for them instead of Ruggs. But if they're not, Ruggs is the slam dunk pick, in my opinion.
Lyle, like you said about Ruggs, though, can he just run one route? You look at a guy like, DK Metcalf, who last year coming into the draft was, he can only run straight. He can't cut. And look what he did for Seattle this year. He was a solid receiver. So, yes, there's a lot of John Ross comparison, but look what Ruggs did as the number 2 receiver. He wasn't a featured receiver. Yes, he was still a top receiver in college football, but he wasn't the featured receiver on that Alabama squad. So you can bring him in and slot him in as a second receiver somewhere behind a guy that's been there a couple of years, whichever team he goes to, whichever receiver they have, free agents on the team already. So that's where the thing is I don't want to make comparisons to John Ross yet, because you can't. It's tough to now.
Yeah.
All right,
He's just got more the body size of
I know,
Ross,
but
that's all. Metcalf's like a physical freak, so I know. Learn, but that's my thing. His body's a little bit small. Right?
Yeah. All right.
Metcalf is just someone else. That's just on a different level right there with Metcalf.
I'll go quickly through my pick. When we saw the Broncos make their Super Bowl run, Super Bowl 50, yes, they had Peyton Manning at quarterback, but he was end of his career Peyton Manning. But you look at the defense that Broncos team had, and it was just elite. I have them taking Javon Kinlaw here. So your 2 edge rushers are Bradley Chubb, Javon Kinlaw, and Von Miller in your middle linebacker spot. That's a dangerous defensive front 7 right there.
I like it. That would be hopefully Bradley Chubb. For those of you that don't know, we interviewed Bradley Chubb a few years back. It was like his first official pre-draft interview. That was a lot of fun. So just search up Harris Highlights Bradley Chubb interview. That was a cool thing. I think the Broncos, I think they go wide receiver here. I think I'm the only one that has the top 3 guys already gone. So, I mean, if one of them falls, that's great. But as of right now, I have T. Higgins going at 15 to the Broncos. Again, ranking the wide receivers pretty much outside the top 3 from like 4 to 8. You can go any ranking. You can have Justin Jefferson there. You can have Brandon Ayuk. You can have some of these other guys. So I don't know how the Broncos view the wide receivers. Again, I wouldn't be shocked if T. Higgins goes 15. I wouldn't be shocked if he goes near the mid to late 20s in the first round. So I'm just going with T. Higgins just because I really liked what I saw from him at Clemson. And again, a lot of if this was a different year, T. Higgins would probably be a top 3 guy. But I don't know who they're going to go for, but I think the Broncos, I think they need to go with the wide receiver there, depending on who's best available in their eyes. But just bring us to the final one, guys. Pick number 16 being made by the Atlanta Falcons.
I think they could use anybody on defense. I think they could also go for K'Lavon Chaisson from, is it K'Lavon?
Just K'Lavon.
K'Lavon Chaisson.
K'Lavon Chaisson from LSU. I think they could go with him. But if they need secondary help, I think CJ Henderson's the obvious pick from Florida. So those are my 16.
Yeah, I had Chaisson here. I mean, and like Josh said, I mean, those were the 2 guys that you kind of swing back and forth between with this Falcons team. And the Falcons have tried to invest in both those positions the last couple of years. They took Tack McKinley in the first round a couple of years ago. They took Isaiah Oliver day 2 a couple of years ago from Colorado. But they still have got to kind of complete their defense because there's a lot of holes on it right now. And it's funny, outside of Chase Young, there's a little bit of a drop-off, or actually I should say a big drop-off in these edge rushers, because most of these guys kind of fall to the late teens to early 20s after Chase, but I think Chase On's supposed to be that second guy, and I think he'd fit in well in Atlanta. So I've got Chase On.
You know, I've got a defensive player as well, but it's not Caleb on. I have them taking Kenneth Murray from Oklahoma. You know, Atlanta totally stockpiled their offense now. They got Dante. They had a great offseason. Dante Fowler, Todd Gurley, Hayden Hurst. You need a solid defensive player too. So I'm going to have them taking Kenneth Murray at 16.
I like it. Hope not, because I want Kenneth Murray to fall to the Saints at 24. I got C.J. Henderson out of Florida for this one. He's been kind of like rising and falling in a bunch of mock drafts. So I've seen some of him in the 20s. I've seen some of him kind of like in the mid teams. But I think C.J. Henderson, I think that'd be a great pick for the Falcons. They're kind of in a tough spot as well, where they were like a pretty good team, but just a lot of injuries kind of screwed them up this past season. Todd Gurley now at running back. It's going to be exciting to see how their offense looks, but defensively, I think they need to make a pick. And I like what Lyle and Josh, I like who they went with as well. I think this could be one of the cases where who's the best defensive player that's available? They might go with that as well. But I think if you're the Falcons, defense has to be the pick here. But guys, that's our 9 through 16. This was definitely a lot harder than last week. Next week, we'll be doing 17 through 24. And then the following week, we'll be doing 25 to 32. But we have about 5 to 10, 15 minutes or so to do some Q&A questions. So if you're watching right now on the live YouTube stream, leave a comment pretty much asking us anything college football related, anything just life related. It could be a funny Q&A question like a would you rather, this or that, any recommendations on movies, food, anything like that. Any fun questions that'll have us going. We got Lyle that wants to say something first.
Oh, really quick. I was just going to say, am I the only one that still has Herbert on my board for their mock draft? Or did all three of you guys have him going somewhere?
Oh,
I had him like top
interesting.
7.
Yeah,
I had him going to the Chargers.
You guys all had him off your board. Okay.
I had him going to the Chargers.
Interesting. Justin Herbert is still on Lyle's board. So that's going to be. So if you're watching, definitely tune in next week to see how far Justin Herbert falls on Lyle's board.
He'll be
This
the
is like a
first
Bo
one
Callahan
off.
type situation.
What's up?
Well, I
To
mean, look,
Dallas.
I mean, we got Dallas. I mean, well,
The next couple picks, 17 is Dallas, 18 is the Dolphins, 19.
I think Lyle already picked a quarterback with Miami. I think, right?
You picked
Yeah.
Tua, didn't you? So who do you
Tua.
have going to the Chargers?
Love.
Jordan Love.
Oh, right. Okay, so he still had him taking a quarterback. He just left.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That means
Justin
Justin
Herbert
quarterback
out of
next
the
is gonna
first
get a
round.
steal.
I'm trying to
Justin
see where
Herbert
the
out of
hell
the
I
first
had
round.
him go. I got no
All right,
clue.
guys. Our first question. This comes from Short Round. He said, "What have been your favorite meals during this social isolation time?"
Homemade or like ordered?
Any meal. Any meal.
Oh man. Man, I don't know. I'll go homemade. I made what's it called? Like pot roast and mashed potatoes one night with some asparagus. That was pretty good for homemade. I mean, I've been to In-N-Out a couple times and you can't go wrong there. But yeah, homemade, the pot roast with some mashed potatoes was fantastic.
Do I even need to say it? Or?
Lyle, let's hear your shocking answer.
Man, let's see. Pot roast and like steamed halibut or really, yeah, no. I eat a lot of PB&Js, and that is one thing that has not changed since quarantining. I ate a lot of them before. I eat a lot of them now, and I'm probably going to eat a lot more for the rest of my life. So that's what I've been eating.
I've been grilling out a lot of burgers. You know, a lot of burgers. I've had a lot of chicken. You know, got a whole like rotisserie chicken. That was pretty good. Make a bunch of stuff with that, but that would be homemade stuff. I will say this: don't sleep on the frozen pizza game. The frozen pizzas.
Are you doing DiGiorno?
No.
Okay, that's where you're going wrong.
Well, we did, but we went to go restock, and now they're out of DiGiorno. So now we're
for
loading
good
up.
reason.
We're trying some of the other ones, and it's a fun game trying all these different
Like
frozen
what?
pizzas.
Red Baron?
Red Baron's
Like-
one, Jack's is one. I don't remember what today's
Wait,
was.
what's the second one you just said?
Red Baron,
No, Red
No,
Baron. and
after
then what?
that.
Jack's.
Jack's.
Yeah, that's one.
Red Baron is always number 2 for me. It's not pizza, it's DiGiorno's one.
Bingo.
It's
Mhm.
not delivery. It's disgusting.
Wait, what did I say?
I don't.
It's not. If it's not delivery, it's not delivery.
What did I
it's
say?
DiGiorno.
It's not pizza. It's DiGiorno.
Oh no, it's definitely pizza. Jesus.
Yo, Philly Reese 215 air fryer all the way. I've been making a lot of air fried potatoes too. That's a good one. That's a good meal too. Cereal, can't go wrong with cereal.
Yeah, just a bunch of homemade stuff. I've become accustomed to having a Chipotle because it's like accustomed. I think I've had it twice. It's just because it's right down the street from MJ and it's delicious and it's
Who's
not the
MJ
worst thing you
again?
can have. Oh, that's a funny one, Josh.
It's
There's
a
been a lot of
documentary
places
guy.
though. There's been a lot of places that have been having like free stuff. Like Taco Bell's been having free tacos. Like
Yeah,
one
this was
week.
drive. There's
There's one
today.
across
Yeah.
the street.
Today it's
Today,
drive
free
through
Doritos
only.
taco.
Too bad Blake can't go get it. It's drive through only.
Free Dorito tacos. So yeah, if you want to go get them, there'll be that. But a lot of homemade stuff. I've been running a lot, guys. I did 4 miles today. Did 4 miles the other day. Not so much fast food for a BH anymore. You just got to cut down those winter
I went golfing
pounds.
today.
That seems smart.
Stay
All right,
home.
guys. This question comes from Flash Gordon. This is probably a better question for BK. And Flash Gordon wants to know, how can us fans come onto the show in the future?
Well, I asked you guys this earlier if we want to do this today. We can do this starting next week. Maybe it's up to the rest of those who run the show. But if we get the okay from the executive director of business operations, Blake Harris, I think we might be able to bring some guests on the show starting next week.
So yeah, if there's any fans that are interested in joining in on the Zoom call to ask us a question or something, hit us up on our Twitter account at the HH Show _ so that way we can set something up, because during the show it might be kind of tough, but if you have any interest, let us know beforehand so that way we can get some Q&A questions. It's kind of like how we used to do callers when we were live on air. This way we can get you guys on the Zoom call. Here's one, guys. This comes from Michael Collins. What are your thoughts on college football potentially having no fans this upcoming season? So let's say come August and September, this thing is still bad. That's kind of the whole thing with college football, the fans, the bans, and everything. What would your guys' thoughts be on college football games being played with no fans?
You would say the bans.
I'm a little worried.
No
I'm a little
disrespect to the
worried that
bands.
I'm a little worried that we don't, get a college football season. And I hope that's not I hope that's an overreaction. But that's my concern at the moment. From a medical standpoint, what do I know? But also I've started hearing things that we might start to get it under control, but until there's a vaccine, it'll go away and then it'll spike and come back again. So obviously I hope that's not the case. But if that's a thing, that I think obviously fans in any sport play a huge role, but there is something about college football and football's relationship to the fans that make college football's environment so special, because obviously college football is about representing your university and tradition and history and things like that, and I think fans play a big part of that. So that's going to be frankly that's going to be terrifying if that's the case. So
it'd certainly be interesting. I mean, look, first off, on the whole, up in the air season, I think the fact that Major League Baseball starting to make some serious progress on this probably only means good things for the rest of the sports world. Now, how these games are played is yet to be determined. I mean, the fans part of it is certainly going to take some time. And no fans in a college football stadium, that would certainly be echoey, to say the least. And I think it'd be something that nobody's ever seen. But at the same time, I think it's better to play with no fans and everybody can still watch on their TVs from home than not play at all. So, you'd be able to hear a lot more than you normally would on the field or on the sidelines. But, maybe that'd be kind of a cool perspective. But in the end, it's still college football, and you're still watching games be played.
I don't know what you're talking about. UCLA has been playing without fans for years. Ha, ha, ha.
That is true. They have.
There's the joke Josh would have made.
dude, that UCLA ASU game this year was just embarrassing.
Yes,
sorry.
It was. One of the things that I think of is I could see college sports being one of the last to come back. And the reason why is because the players you have on the field are not being paid. The NFL, the NBA,
supposedly.
supposedly. The NFL, the NBA, the NHL, MLB, all these, professional organizations, they have money. They have money to compensate the players, and they know there's the apparent risk of injuries, of, say, major health concerns now. Well, you look at college sports is, all right, do these guys get health insurance with this job? Do they get, benefits? No, they don't get any of that. So That's where I see. Listen, I'm an optimist. I think we will have all sports coming back in August, September, and be just fine. But college football without fans would just be eerie. It'd be weird.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough thing. I mean, September's still a long ways off, and that's what makes it's like what makes college football and college basketball so much better to watch. Is just the environment's a lot better. I mean, obviously, I think I'd rather have college football games with no fans than no college football at all. But again, it just depends on how things are going. Obviously, I like to see games, but we'll just have to wait and see. We got one final question, guys. We only have time for one more question. I'm trying to find where it went. Here we go. Which college football team needs new uniforms?
I mean, you guys know how picky I am. I feel like there's a
Huh.
lot, but I'll go. I mean,
No.
the first team that popped into my head was Arizona. I mean, your color combination is red, white, and blue. The logo is, you can identify it easily, and you know it's U of A. But I mean, the logo's clunky. The uniforms are god awful. I mean, Lyle can attest to this. The two of us called the U of A ASU game this year, and we didn't know which player was who. Like we didn't know which player was which. We couldn't read their numbers. So I mean, I think their uniforms are terrible. And Nike did them dirty. Nike did them dirty. So U of A.
I don't even think because see, as picky as Josh is, that's I guess how unpicky I am about jerseys for the most part. I'm trying to think are there really any jerseys out there that are like that bad that I really have a gripe with, I guess. I mean, I don't know. There's all the classics. Maybe you guys should come back to me on this one. Maybe I need some time to think. Brady, do you have anybody?
That's the thing too, is I don't know. Is you look at like the classics, like say Alabama. All right, I don't know if any team needs to change uniforms, but I think it would be cool to have the classics sort of be reimagined. So we saw a couple years ago with USC, they went with a different color face mask, and that was a big deal for USC, alumni and supporters and the team and everything. But you look at an Alabama, all right, how cool would it be if Bama had a blackout game and they had a blackout uniform with like red and white trim? I don't think anybody needs to change their primary uniform, but giving some of these classic teams an alternate uniform would be pretty cool.
I think if Bama somehow incorporated something with the elephant, I think they can have some sort of like sick designs there.
Kind of like how Florida did with the alligator with the gator skin jerseys.
Oh,
yes.
God.
But that's a tough thing because you have to like really go into depth on each like uniform to see what needs work. Personally, I think Georgia can use an upgrade. I'm just not like a huge fan on I guess like the way their numbers are. All right, I just think Georgia they can. I just something about it. I just don't like the way the helmets look. I don't like the way the jerseys look. I think they can upgrade. I think Oregon needs to go back to what they were doing a few years ago, lose the jumbo numbers, go back to what worked so well, kind of like in the early 2010s, kind of like mid 2000s, or even just a few seasons ago. But I think the jumbo numbers, like I don't think it's a good look. Oregon, they were killing the uniform game years ago, and I just think the last few seasons they kind of haven't. I don't know. I think they're just trying to get too special with them. I think they're trying to get too crazy with them and just lose the big numbers and go back to like what they were wearing a decade ago.
I've got one that I thought of is when you turn on the TV and you're scrolling through the channels on a Saturday, it's pretty easy to identify, which teams are playing, because especially at least the home team, because a lot of them have, pretty unique uniforms and colors. Iowa State needs to rebrand, not, the school or anything, but rebrand uniforms, because every time I turn on TV, I think I'm watching a USC game when I see Iowa State scrolling through. So I would say nothing against Iowa State itself, but a slight rebrand for the Cyclones would do them justice.
Yeah, if I could pick a rebrand, honestly, it'd probably be either Wyoming or Western Michigan. And now thinking about it, because I think brown on any jersey just looks awful. And I know it's kind of the colors of their schools, but I'd rather at least see them go like gray or black or something. Just brown looks so bad. I think they should, rebrand their jerseys a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. But guys, that does wrap up this edition of the show. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Thanks for those that are asking all the questions. Had some we had to pass up because just didn't have enough time. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at the HH Show _. That way you keep up to date with us with what's going on. Again, with potentially bringing fans on for future shows. Just pretty much what different things we like to ask the fans what they want to hear us talk about. We want to hear what they want us to say, what topics they want to discuss. So again, if you enjoy watching the show, make sure to follow us on Twitter at the HH Show _. So yeah, thank you everyone for listening. This was a lot of fun. A lot of people coming and going. I think, guys, moving forward, Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern is what we're going to be shooting for. That's works best for everyone. So make sure to join in on the live stream Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern here on YouTube. But that does wrap everything up. Is there any final thoughts? Anything you guys want to add before we part ways for another week?
Stay inside and wash your hands.
Yes.
Or there will be no college football season or fans. So
Very
wash
true.
your hands and stay inside.
Well done.
Lyle,
Well done.
anything?
And Brady's currently sharing this. I don't know what's going on.
Did I share the screen? I was going to try to
It happens.
play the outro song.
Oh, yeah, so we don't have a meet and greet with everyone's moms this week.
Yeah,
Right.
not this week. Let's see.
Okay, thanks, Lyle.
Oh,
Yeah,
Lyle,
I mean,
what's dinner? What's dinner tonight?
great question. PB&J maybe?
Oh, what an original idea by Lyle.
Perfect.
Not me. I like to get, I like to go out of the box, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
big,
he does.
big think out of the box guy. Lyle Goldstein is. Fans files.
All right, perfect. Well, while Brady figures out how we can go off stream so that way we don't have a few minutes of just everyone's moms running in, this has been Blake Harris with Lyle Goldstein, Josh Schaefer, and Brady Clemens. Okay, now I can hear myself. That
There you
happened
go.
last week.
I don't know volume control.
This has been Blake Harris from beautiful Monrovia, California, and we will see you guys all next week.